That is true. I do actually have a black belt in karate. I usually introduce myself at new locations as do the accessibility or I will kick you in the head. And then they laugh, and then they know then they realise I'm actually serious. No. So thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming down to the small room to check out some accessibility today. I am Raven Alley on Twitter, and that's Alley A-L-L-Y because I'm Allison. Just a public service announcement. If you are going to tweet, let's tweet accessibly. It's all part of the game. Now, if you're going to tweet accessibly, you can add alt tags to your photos, right? But Twitter, in their wisdom, make this an opt-in rather than a default, right? So have a bit of a dig in your Twitter settings, settings and privacy, accessibility, compose image descriptions. Turn that sucker on. And next time you're tweeting a photo, maybe of me, in this fantastic talk, tell the people who are blind and vision impaired what you're sending them a photo of, and they will really, really appreciate it. Particularly if you're doing stuff of me. I do have followers who are blind and vision impaired and rely on these descriptions, so they will thank you very much. So, on with the show. In the accessibility community, we talk very commonly about the fact that the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that around 1 in 5 Australians report as having some form of disability. So if you are having the discussion at work about accessibility is not important, accessibility doesn't concern me, our product doesn't need to be accessible, how about having the conversation that by doing that, you're potentially excluding 20% of your potential audience. You're potentially excluding 5 million Australians from using your apps. That is very, very disappointing. So obviously, this runs a massive gamut from very mild or an occasional disabilities through to the permanent and the profound. And then we have intersectional disability, multi-disability, and we also have people who don't identify as having disability, but just have preferences, or all of those of you here today wearing glasses, you're probably like, well, I'm not disabled, but you have a vision impairment. So, and some of you may turn up the font size on your screen and change the colours of your background just to enhance the way that you use your device. Now, I'm happy to report the Android platform has a stack of accessibility features built in, and most of your phones and other Android devices will have most, if not all, of these features and functions already ready to go. So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of homework for this talk. I may not come back around and mark you, but just trust me on it. I would love for you to go in and have a play in your settings app, dive into accessibility, and have a look at some of these settings. More importantly, check out how these settings are respected by your app. Does your app respect font size and display size? Does your app respect inverting colours and high contrast? Or does your app just go, no? That would be disappointing. So there's a lot of cool features here that are built in and ready to roll. And the first thing you can do is go, does my app do that? That's for free. Also for free. Everything today is for free. No cost. I'm here for free, telling you this stuff. Obviously you paid for a ticket. Thanks for that. All right, so the first thing you can do, if you know nothing about accessibility and you haven't hired me to come in and give you the blah blah talk, normally I have 2 days to talk about this stuff and I'm jamming it into 30 minutes. I'm really stressing right now. But first thing you can do is download the accessibility scanner. It's an app in the Play Store. It's built by Google themselves, and it is based on the International Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So that's an international standard that tells us how to build accessibly. And when you download it and you install it, it doesn't appear in your apps list. It is installed within your settings under the accessibility section. So you find it there, you turn it on, and it presents this little blue tick. Now, apologies to any of the Australia Post app developers in the room. I love nothing more than biting the hand that feeds, and we want to thank Australia Post for hosting us here today by giving them some free accessibility advice. I had to pick on someone. So here it is. You tap the tick, and the scanner will go through and do its job, and it will come back with this fabulous list of items that you need to check. All of the items are outlined. You can tap each one of them in turn and be given some details, or you can tap the list button up the top, and it'll give you some details of what's wrong, and more importantly, what you need to do to fix it and get it up to scratch. It's not just a bug reporter going wrong, 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 wrong. It's wrong and next steps. So, we don't have an accessibility talk unless we talk about colour contrast, so we'll just get that out of the way. The text delivered in the Australia Post app, it's a beautiful bright lime green. Unfortunately, it's not bright enough. The scanner is reporting that the green combined with the white background is at a 3:1 contrast ratio. There are lots of colour contrast calculators out there. I'm not going to go through one of those. But what this app is telling you is this is not good enough. 4.5 is good enough. So you need to go back and have a chat with your designers, your UX folks, your graphics people. Hopefully it's not branded marketing because they get really, really sassy about their colours. I've had some very robust conversations with marketing and brand about their brand colours. They're very possessive. So colour contrast is one of the things you will want to be checking. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is touch targets and touch target sizes. I heard someone the other day talking about the fact that they have giant man hands. I'm like, oh, okay. And I guess having giant man hands would be, a problem when you're trying to tap a touch target, which is tiny. Now you're sort of looking at this add a delivery address button, which is currently outlined and is currently the topic of the scanner's broth. And you're like, that's pretty big. Look, it's the whole width. It's not the width it's worried about, it's the height. So the Google Material Guidelines actually state that a minimum touch target, I heard it, 48 by 48 dp. This delivery address button is only 40 dp high. So a little bit of a tweak, bump it up, make it a bit fatter, probably be about as fat as the delivery preferences button above it. It's good to go. You'll also note in the scanner, it's giving you the recommendation, but if you want more background, if you want more reasoning and where did this come from, what is it all about, there is a learn more. It takes you out to a web page and you get all the details. It's huge. I'm not going to do it all now. I've only got half an hour. Last one from the scanner. This is, well, you can't have a favourite bug, can you? But this is a powerful one. Big red button, big white plus. Visually, it's great. It's very visible. I can see what it does. Chances are it's going to add something. But yet, the scanner's saying, this item may not have a label readable by screen readers. And you're like, well, it's got a big plus. It's good to go. And you're like, no. Actually, this is about supporting people who are blind or vision impaired. So at the moment, there is no label which is reported by a screen reader. Now, a screen reader is a piece of software on Android. The Google screen reader is called TalkBack. It's part of the Android accessibility suite if it's not installed on your phone by default. And TalkBack interprets the screen, reads it out aloud to someone who can't see it. I think the best way to demonstrate that is with a demonstration. I don't like tempting the demo gods. So I've actually pre-recorded a short video. You are going to hear what the screen reader sounds like when it taps on that big red button. See if you think it's useful. Now, the script is actually quite fast. There are captions, but just listen along. All right, so let's pick on Australia Post.
TalkBack on. QEB 8074937. More. Double tap to activate. Account. Find us. Selected. Track. Unlabeled button. Double tap to activate. Unlabeled button. Double tap to activate.
I had to do it once more for feeling, you know. Unlabeled button. If you can't see the screen, you literally cannot see the screen, and you hear unlabeled button, are you going to tap that sucker? Hell no. Like, it could do anything. It could delete stuff, it could save stuff, it could add stuff, it could launch missiles. I don't know. It just says unlabeled. Thankfully, solving this is really, really easy. Content description. That's it. If you define a content description on your button or your image, the TalkBack screen reader will pick it up, and that's what it'll say. Bear in mind, you do not have to say button, right? So in your label, don't say add new parcel button, right? TalkBack understands and identifies element types, and it announces those separately. So if you include the word button in your content description, it's going to say add parcel details button, which, you know, is very complete but slightly annoying. So add parcel details, winner, right? So that's a nice one. A really cool feature of a screen reader is that you can skim content by element type, because the default navigation of a screen reader is linearly, element by every bloody element. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every text, every heading, every image, every text box, every checkbox, every radio button, every single element, one by one. Can you imagine how tedious that is? Holy moly, who's got time for that? No one. So, particularly not screen reader users. So, they use this skimming behavior. And you can skim and you can skip along. And the most common skimming behavior is headings. They've done surveys, it's actually true. I'm not pulling that out of my butt. Headings is the most common way to skip through content, because headings are a natural grouping mechanism, they're a signposting mechanism, they're very, very handy. Unfortunately, Android's been a little bit slow to the party when it comes to being able to define text as a heading within an app. We've been able to identify headings on Android and web for ages because we have all the H tags in HTML. But now, finally, we have, as of the last couple of releases of the API, accessibility heading. If you are using a text view which is acting as a heading, please, please, please use this property, define this property, and make that skimming by headings possible. They don't define levels. There's no leveling yet, so it's not like H1, H2, H3, a la HTML. It's just, it's a heading or it's not. But one step at a time. You know, it's a heading or it's not. Now, I've got to show you something. It's going to be slightly unpopular in this particular audience, but just bear with me. Okay. Screen reader users prefer Apple products. Now, I think this is mainly because Apple got the jump, right? The Apple screen reader, which is called VoiceOver, was actually deployed for the first time in the iPhone 3GS, like eons ago. Android sort of got on the wagon a little bit later and shipped something that was a bit shoddy, and has been playing catch up ever since. And so Apple have got 2/3 of the market. And you're like, as an Android developer, why should I care? Everyone's on Apple, it's okay. I don't give a rat's. I'd like to tell you the good news. From an Android perspective, I think this is in general, right? Android is on the rise. It's huge, right? Apple is on the tilt. They've peaked and they're over the hill. Android, and I think particularly when you take into account the price point of Android devices, it's a much wider price point. It's a much lower barrier to entry. This is going to continue. So don't be discouraged by people going, Apple's the lead, Apple's the accessibility platform. It's not true. Okay. So another interaction method that you may not have considered is going hands-free. So there are a bunch of people, for a variety of reasons, mostly mobility related, that choose to or cannot use their devices in their hand or using their hands. They may not have hands. Whatever the reason is, hands-free interaction is the way to go. And Android and Google support this with the Voice Access app. Now, I must admit, I'm an Apple user. I have an iPhone. Don't run me out. And I was really excited when iOS 13 was announced, and they said we're bringing voice control, the equivalent. And I was like, voice control! Oh my God, that's so exciting! Whoa! What's Google doing? And then I sort of had a bit of a Google, and I discovered that they'd already done it a year ago, and I'm like, oh shit. And it was voice access. So voice access goes way beyond OK Google and Siri and Alexa and just sort of those basic assistants, and goes through to the level of full operation of your phone. And I think it's a really cool tool, and I've got a quick video with a couple of people to show you the different ways that they use it and why they need it.
Let's go, guys.
My name's Stephanie, and I just finished my master's in advertising. I'm a C4, C5 split level quadriplegic. I have no feeling from my collarbone down, so it is absolutely vital that I'm able to use my voice. Okay, Google, start voice access.
My name's Jeff, and I have a neurological condition called essential tremor. It is incredibly difficult to use my hands and fingers. It is very easy for me to use my voice. Okay, Google, start voice access.
After using this product for probably about 10 seconds, I think I'm falling in love with it. Open camera. You use your voice, and you're able to access the world. Shutter. Share. Hangouts. Astrid Weber. Send.
I cannot tell you how excited I am about this product. Open calendar. New when you don't have the ability to use your fingers and hands. Family movie night. It's really all about voice.
So who thought about someone using their app, your app, like that? Just talking to it instead of tapping it. Ooh, someone just turned it on. I thought I heard it. there's a little ting when voice access turns on. I thought I heard it just then. Oh yeah, just a note, don't turn on TalkBack right now. Your phone's going to start chattering like a crazy thing, and we will all know about it. With voice access, it's a really nifty tool. It's basically an overlay on whatever you're seeing on your phone. So it should work with your app right now. And the way it displays on the phone is these series of dynamic number labels which are applied to anything that's interactive, which it identifies as being interactive. And so you would have seen in the video that Stephanie and Jeff were both calling commands by name, which is possible with pretty much all of these things. They've all got visible labels. But then when you've got something like our big red plus button from earlier, there's no text label. So you might have a guess at it. But in case there's a label there that you don't understand or you don't know or there's nothing visible, all of these numbers are here. So you can actually say the number instead. So if I said 5, add a delivery address button would be activated and I'd be into that workflow. So I really strongly encourage you to download Voice Access, particularly if you're using custom controls, because all of the native controls are very well supported and identified, and Voice Access knows that they're interactive and knows how to label them and everything. But if you've got a control that's custom and you're sort of casting other types and all the rest of it, Voice Access might get a little bit screwy. So it'd be good for you to check it out first and sort of go, oh, I've got to check my casting, I've got to make sure that it's, it's using the right element type and all the rest of it, so that Voice Access is more on tap. Now, a couple of quick ones to finish. This one, you're going to groan. I'm sorry, but just deal with it. Your apps need to support both portrait and landscape orientation. Okay? If this was an iPhone Apple audience, they would just be like wholesale, oh, because adapting the layouts is so much worse for them. It's gross. But we've got Stephanie here, and she has her phone mounted on a stand, right? We don't know Stephanie's ability to be able to reach out and turn that phone around, right? So she is forced to a portrait orientation at the moment. Imagine if her phone was sitting in landscape because she likes watching a lot of media. She's all on the Netflix and watching the videos and all the rest of it, and then she's like, oh, got to pay that bill. And then she switches over to her utilities provider or her banking app and whatever, and then she has to sort of turn her head sideways in order to use her Voice Access because she can't read it because it hasn't adapted. That's a pretty poor experience. So this isn't me just asking nicely. This is actually now an international guideline standard as of last year. So this is something that you do need to take back and have a chat with your teams about. I do appreciate that this could involve a lot of work and make me very unpopular, but I'm prepared to wear that because I think it's important. I'd love you to do it. Jeff's hands. How's shaky with Jeff's hands? Oh my goodness. Jeff is going to obviously have a problem with touching buttons accurately. He's definitely going to benefit from larger tap targets that we talked about before. But one of the things that Jeff is definitely going to struggle with is motion interaction. So if you are building apps that incorporate some form of motion interaction or motion function, you need to provide alternatives for someone like Jeff, because he is either going to be triggering stuff when he doesn't mean it, because his hands just move uncontrollably. He can't decide when or not his hands are going to move. So if his hand is holding the device and he has a bit of a shake, he's going to trigger whatever function you've got attached to that, whether he meant it or not. Similarly, if you are writing an app with the camera and trying to record the person's movement independent of the device, a person may not be able to perform that particular motion. So we also have to look at it from the motion of the device and the motion of the user. Provide buttons on the screen, provide the ability to turn that motion interaction off, make it optional wherever possible. I do appreciate that if you've got something like a game where motion is the entire point, something like a Just Dance, like one of my favorite games is Just Dance, and the whole point is to get up and dance and move around in time with the music. I'm really bad at it, can't you tell? And if you took away the motion interaction of Just Dance, it'd be just sit. And that game wouldn't chart. It wouldn't really liven up your party like a Just Dance can. So in the cases where the motion is essential to the experience of the function, the whole point, then yes, motion away, dance it up. chances are Jeff may or may not be playing, or he'll be scoring a bit lower. You might want to adjust the, the accuracy in order to make it more accessible for Jeff to come in and blitz it. So, to wrap it, here is what I just talked about for the last half an hour. Here is the summary slide. Bang. Update your Twitter settings. Go back. I didn't see anyone do it, so go back and do it. Or you already had it done. Tops to you. So, update your Twitter settings. Label your photos properly. Play with your Android accessibility settings and see how your app reacts. Use the accessibility scanner. Even if you know nothing about accessibility, it does, and it will get you on the path. Try out TalkBack. It's scary, but it will give you an insight into a different way of working. Same with voice access. I think the barrier to entry in voice access is really, really low. Anyone can start that sucker up and start talking. Support portrait and landscape. Add motion alternatives. Here's some links. I believe I'm going to share these slides later, so don't feel the need to get it all right now, but places where you can download TalkBack, voice access, and the accessibility scanner. I've done a couple of cheat sheets for commands for TalkBack and voice access. There is an entire accessibility team at Google who have written a bunch of developer guides to support devs to do the right thing and make things accessible. So thank you for coming out again. I know there were another couple of really good talks on offer, but thank you for being here. Thank you for caring, and thank you for sharing. And let's all get more accessible. Cheers.